Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the nation. Today I am here, and yes, I know I did two interviews before doing Mimizinga, Paul People. Soon I'm gonna have to do Fiora, and next I'm probably gonna do Minty Root. But right now we are interviewing one of the most famous bronies I know.
Hello.
Awkward pause there.
Yes, yes. Well, I didn't know that that was my cue.
Tell me about yourself.
Oh, hello. I am the Looney Turtle. I make YouTube videos on my channel. I usually talk about whatever I really want to talk about. Usually I stray around cartoons and video games. Um, and I make theories, reviews, speculation kind of things. And it's a great way to stay in shape. Oh, and on the side, I have a turtle character that tells me I'm wrong or asks questions that might be on the audience's minds. I guess his character is more of an interactive narrator, if you'd like.
Oh,
And he sounds like this. Hi everyone. Turtles are cool.
so that's basically how you go at it with breaking the fourth wall and asking questions for your fans.
Yeah. Or like when I'm writing, I sometimes come upon a question that I know somebody's going to ask, and I'm like, I have to address that. How do I address that? And over the years, I started the channel and I just kind of segued into it. But I found it a lot funner to start using the channel mascot to kind of be the one that asks the questions. Because then it's a quicker way to go from one point directly to another, or directly to a counterpoint.
And what made you what inspired your channel?
Well, um, I've been on YouTube for about 7 years now in total. I started out with Double O Random, which was a channel that was supposed to be collaborative. But I ended up just making a bunch of vlogs and experimenting with effects and all that. And then I made my own channel since the collaborative aspect wasn't working out, called Random Eric 1, where, again, I experimented, did some stop motion, learned a little animation. And all the while, I was taking inspiration from some of the top YouTubers like Freddie W. and Smosh. Fred was popular at the time. So, I looked up to the top YouTubers at the time, and I was like, I want to be like them. And I ended up just kind of experimenting, messing around, learning my tools. And it hit a point where I had learned enough about YouTube where I was like, okay, I want to start making a name for myself. Because these last two names didn't really roll off the tongue. They weren't really the easiest to type or find. I mean, Double O Random, all of the O's were zeros. So D0, B0. It was a mess. And then Random Eric 1, there was no necessity for the 1. And it kind of stayed with the random thing. Why was I wanting to be random? So I kind of sat and pondered a name that I would want to have for the next few years. And I kept into account, well, what if I might hate the name? Because at the time, I had talked to my brother and discussed it a little bit. And he brought up how some of the more popular people, like Ego Raptor, didn't really like their name, like what they were known as. And you'll actually notice more recently, Ego Raptor is constantly called Aaron Hansen instead. Like he's rebranded himself to kind of distance himself from the name that he kind of stumbled into. And so I was brainstorming names. I only ever came up with two. And I know that I like cartoons. So something cartoony, loony what? So then I started looking around my room. I had a fish tank at the time. Went over to the fish tank, watched my fish swim around. Loony goldfish? Nah. Loony guppy? Nah. That's an obscure fish species. Nobody knows that. Loony plecostomus? Nah, That's a bottom feeder, and it's also a mouthful. And in the tank, we had a figurine of a turtle. So that's when it kind of clicked, the Thelooneyturtle. That's the name I'll go with. And I started the channel kind of trying to brand it around the turtle, but me and the turtle were separate characters. It wasn't really clear in the first few videos. And I kind of experimented with a couple of different styles for what type of show I wanted to make. And I tried live action where I would say, you know what I hate. I tried a podcast with one of my friends called Jeremy. And eventually I got into an argument in the comments section with someone. It was one of Little Shy FIM's videos. And what had happened is Twilight was in Equestria Girls saying that Equestria would be just fine without her element of harmony. And so I looked at that scene that Little Shy had made. He popped up 3 villains, Chrysalis, Discord, and Nightmare Moon. And I looked at that and I was like, you know, Discord and Nightmare Moon I can accept, but the elements of harmony weren't used for Chrysalis. Like, they failed. It was the power of love that won that episode. So I tried making that argument in the comments, and someone argued with me back and forth for a bit. And eventually I was like, you know what? I'll just make a video and explain this. It'll be better. And I made a video, and I kind of liked the editing style and how it was put together. So I just kind of continued doing that style of video and talking mainly about what I wanted to talk about. But I kept it themed with what inspired the channel, and that's cartoons. So while I may stray to some video games, the main focus of my channel is going to always be cartoons, because that's what I grew up on.
Okay. So what you're saying is that you started with stuff like that, but then your channel grew into something once you figured out your bounds and your name for yourself. What I'd also like to know, what was the first, 2 questions by the way, what was the first video that sparked your channel, and what got you into the fandom?
Okay, so the first video that kind of sparked my channel was, again, that one where I was talking about Twilight and a Canterlot Wedding, the one inspired by Little Shy's video. That's kind of what got me into the style that I use nowadays. And what was the second question?
What got you into the fandom?
Ah, that's an interesting story. So, after season 1, my brother got into the show. He was an artist, liked drawing cartoon characters, and he started drawing ponies and recommending My Little Pony, because at this point it was a little more acceptable for people to be watching the show, and honestly, within my family, I didn't care. I looked up to my brother, so, well, I still look up to him. So for him to be watching this show, it didn't seem really weird. So I had been binging Doctor Who on Netflix that summer. So I just, since he started watching it, since I was curious of why he was so into it, I watched the first season and just kept watching after that. Season 2 was pretty soon after I started watching, so there was that.
Okay. So when your channel sparked up, did you have people who helped you, or did you start off on your own?
Well, my brother has always constantly helped me with the channel, giving feedback on my stuff, and even supplying some artwork for the videos, some tips on how to animate and all that. So I would say my brother has always been there for me, but there has been a lot of help from the fandom as well. I think it was 2013 maybe, was it? I think it was late 2013 I joined the Rift Cafe Skype group. And in there I met a lot of the analysts and reviewers that I had recently been watching. Like I started with Brony Curious, Tommy Oliver, and Digibro, as well as Anthony C. Like I started watching those people, and slowly I started seeing a bunch of other analysts, like, you know, Voice of Reason, A&Y, Ink Rose, Dr. Wolf, Josh Scorcher. I joined the I did a collab with a guy named Nicholas Viola. He has a channel called Nicky VMLP, and he was in the Rift Cafe, and he invited me just because I guess they had more open invitations at that point. So I joined, and I met all of these analysts that I had kind of been watching, so I fanboyed a little bit, silently, of course, and really connected with a lot of them, got to know a lot of them, and even helped a few out in the best ways I could. Like Redcord, I made his cutie mark. Well, he designed a mock-up version, and I was like, I don't quite like that. So I went and flashed and actually made a proper vector of his cutie mark. And then there's some other people who I've helped make various poses for, like Voice of Reason. For our collab, I didn't quite have the poses I wanted, so I just made some. And I constantly do that when I do collabs, is I just randomly make poses for them, and then they're like, wait, I don't have that in my, can you send that to me? So I just, you know, I'm able to help people out in that regard, and sometimes they've actually come back and been like, hey, can you make me some new poses? And I'm like, yeah, just give me the other poses, because I don't really make poses. I just kind of base new poses off of existing ones, so I Photoshop, essentially. I can make actual vectors, but what I've done in the past is mainly just add to the existing puppet so that they don't have to get a completely new character. So yeah, over the years I've gotten a lot of feedback from the people that I've helped, and I've learned a lot in video editing and collaborating through the people I've worked with and talked to. So community has really helped me over the years.
That's quite lovely. Sadly, that hasn't happened for me yet. I'm still looking for a spark of interest. But this is more about you. What else can I ask you? How does it feel like going to the cons or doing hosting panels, or actually this question, have you ever has someone invited you to host a panel?
So I'll start with before the conventions themselves. Going to conventions is a lot of fun. More often than not, I would go to meet with a lot of the people that I've known online over the years. But once you go to enough of them, you kind of lose that sense of wonder, because I've met most of these people. So the thing that I continue going for is to see and to help people smile, essentially. For the past couple of conventions, I've gone and started singing songs. I would get out a speaker, start playing them, get people to sing along, and it's an impromptu thing, as opposed to My Little Karaoke, where they have in the game room usually. The impromptu nature of just singing a song, enjoying yourself, it gives a lot more of a personal feel, because you don't have to be perfect, and it's a group singing. It gives you the opportunity to meet, talk with, and interact with people that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise. And it's because we have that common interest of we like singing these songs, we know the lyrics, we enjoy them. And then I've also tried to get people to do a singing train, and we got a really long train at Everfree Northwest. There was this guy who had a sign the entire convention titled LineCon, and we eventually got him to be in front of a singing line, and it got so long. We went into the gala and looped around a few tables, and it took forever to get everybody in to the room. And then we went out, snaked around the con, and it was that's why I really go to the conventions nowadays, is just that experience of fun with a bunch of people. And when it comes to panels, I've hosted a few and been invited to a couple, but they are usually, I don't know, I'm just not that interested in panels. I tend to kind of seep into the background when they're happening, unless I'm the host, in which case I try to be in the foreground, but then I've done a lot of voice acting workshops. Well, a couple, not too many. And I'm still trying to figure out how to best host a panel, so I'm not the best in that regard, but
I like your output of conventions. See, I've never gone to any of the BronyCons, but first time around before summer, I decided to go to like this convention in my town. Very, very fun convention. I loved it. First time ever going. There were so many people, and I cosplayed as Goku, and somebody's like, so many people took photos of me. It felt good to like do that, and there was this person. I forgot the website of what they were on Facebook, so I can't find the photos. But it was this person who's like, "Hey, come here," and they had this like seat that was designed, and they asked me to sit in it. It was like a Star Trek seat, and it had custom sounds from Dragon Ball Z of the Kaioken and shit like that. It made me really happy, like, to be there, and I was glad that I dressed up like Goku, because nobody would have recognized me either way, because I'm not that big, but it felt good to feel like I was recognized.
yeah. And actually, speaking of getting recognized, when I go to these conventions, I go to the airport most of the time. So I have to fly out to San Francisco, to San Diego. I think where was Pacific PonyCon? Wherever that one was. And then, Washington, Seattle. Going to all of these places, I go through the airport. And every time I go wearing my costume, which is a green top hat, a green suit and jacket, black pants. So I'm nice and dressed up for these events. And last time I went to the airport, I was recognized. So I've realized I'm silly enough at the airport that I'm finally getting recognized on that account. And the same happens at conventions where everyone's like, "Oh, it's Looney," or "Oh, it's the Leprechaun." Everyone loves calling me the Leprechaun. But I mean, with all the green, I'm not surprised. I just have to figure out how to make it best look like a turtle.
Okay. See, I've heard a lot of stories of conventions from other bronies, and mind you, not trying to plug in here, I was for a while in the Discord rift, but that's not important. Is there anything you can tell me about like how it feels to be collaborating or knowing the other bronies?
To meet somebody that you've known online for years is it's amazing, especially when they recognize you as well. When it's just the so the feeling that I don't like is when you come up to somebody and they're popular. so they don't know you. You know their videos up, down, left, and right. It feels like a very one-sided relationship in that regard. But most of the time, the people around you kind of act as though, hey, you're a friend, kind of thing. Um, but I don't. Uh, so I love knowing and being known when I go to these conventions, as well as meeting the people who know of me, but I don't know, because the fans are great to meet. Um, but it's just the popularity dynamic when you meet somebody that's way above your league. That's the only interaction I don't quite like, and I try to break it down by walking up and saying hi, how are you, and getting to know them, kind of, so it's not as awkward.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, but when it comes to fans and they come up and they're like, oh, Looney, can I have a picture or something like that, I'm like, awesome, I have somebody I'm going to talk to for the next hour.
See, I can't wait to like get around the level you're at for my channel. I probably know it's never gonna happen because of fucking YouTube. But this this raises other questions too. Um, who do you look up to that is like that you know as a friend in the Brony fandom?
Well, a lot of the people who are above me in subscriber rank, the Dr. Wolves, Silver Quills, Josh Scorchers. Silver Quill is one of the people that I really kind of idolize because he's awesome. He's just got one of those personalities where you're like, I want to keep talking to you and interacting with you because he's so easy to get along with. Um, so, there's a few of them. Like a lot of the other analysts, I like meeting them at conventions, and because more often than not we know each other.
Okay, okay. And um, so I know this might be like bad to ask, and hopefully it is not. How does it make you feel knowing that some of the bronies in like that were in your group like have done bad and wrong?
You're asking if how do I feel meeting people who have wronged me?
Who have wronged the fandom?
Wronged the fandom. Well, more often than not, I try to stay on good terms with everybody to some degree. Um, so when I go to conventions, I go with the expectation of having fun, enjoying myself. Um, and I try not to let petty malice get in the way of having a good time. Maybe I'll sit to the side, talk to some people, but overall, I just try to have fun at these conventions.
Okay. And I know this might be like a very stupid topic in the thing, but in your are you all right with discussing like that one brony who was very the for the thing he did?
Toon Critic.
Yes.
We can say his name. So when it comes to Toon Critic, I'm disappointed in what he ended up doing, but at the same time, I'm disappointed in the fandom because not only was he cast out, not only was he doxxed, not only was he allegedly arrested, like he's lost all of his friends. I realize what he did is terrible, but the worst thing that you can do for somebody who has a problem is to abandon them, because loneliness can fuck you up so bad. And pardon my French there. Um, I am disappointed in him, but I am disappointed in how the fandom treated him. Because, doxing, it's illegal. It shouldn't be cheered on. Wishing for somebody's death, that is wrong morally. I don't care what somebody does, that's a line that should not be crossed. So that's kind of my opinion on the situation is it's a double-edged sword. Like, I am disappointed in him. I do believe he needs punishment, but he's gotten way too much punishment.
This reminds me too. I have faced flagging before for the things that I am not very proud of. That I don't want to discuss because it's just gonna piss more people off of my past history. But I've learned from it. I was younger back then, from what I did, and it was wrong for me to do it. And I don't like the fact of other people doing the same thing. But another thing, I looked at what Toon Critic did, and I'm like, see, that's bad. But then I pan outside of the fandom, and then there was a guy on YouTube, slightly 100 times worse. And I'll say his name. I'll say his name, even though it's frowned upon. Logan fucking Paul.
Yeah. And what irritates me the most about this fandom is the way that we handle problems. Because I've seen some behind the scenes, and maybe it's not the best account. Maybe there's better situations that people can bring forward, but more often than not, we'll talk to somebody in private, quote unquote, talk to them. And what ends up actually happening in those quote unquote talks is somebody's dragged into a call with a bunch of people that are against them. And all of them take their turns yelling at the person and then hope that they do better afterwards. And the issue with that is you've yelled at them. They're probably shutting down as you're yelling at them and being like, oh, okay, and just accepting whatever you're telling them, not really learning what they're supposed to change. If you actually want somebody to change, there needs to be that moral understanding, that moral talk of, hey, so you kind of screwed up. Here's what you need to do to improve. Okay, bye. And you need to make sure that it's reciprocated, like the person actually understands. Have them explain to you what's going on, and don't have a condescending attitude of, well, you did this wrong, so leave. It's got to have that calm tone of, so you screwed up. It's got to be on that person's level. Otherwise, you risk just having them shut down or not really absorb what's being said.
Okay, I don't know the full story of what happened. Hopefully you can, like, refresh what happened, because I've heard a bunch of different stories.
Okay, what you need to know that happened?
What he did.
So I'm still cloudy on the details, because overall, I wasn't as involved in the situation as most people were. I didn't make a video on it because, we interacted at conventions, but Toon and I weren't really goody-goody. We didn't do a whole bunch of collaborative projects. We didn't talk on the regular. So I was rather distant when that news broke. But from what I understand, he did some role play in private message with a girl from the Philippines. I think she was either 12 or 14. And that role play dwelled into some risky material. And he sent her pictures of his boxers, hoping that she'd do the same. And overall kind of solicited child pornography. At least the way that it's been described, that seems what he was doing is soliciting pornography, which is illegal in the States. So overall, he did that, and then there were other situations where he was predatory towards minors, and that's the main thing is he was a very predatory and perverted man.
Okay. And a lot of people see. Don't get me wrong. He did bad, and I'm not accepting that it's okay to do that. I'm just saying that there's a lot of demons and skeletons that other people may have. Like me, for instance, I've I've done some things, and one of the lighter hearted things that I can talk about was when I was around 16 in high school. I was accused of sexually assaulting a minor, even though I was a minor, and it led to some very heated stuff at the school. Police were called. Uh, it ended up being fake in claims. Uh, One of the things that they did ask me though that the girl did say I did have to lie about because I would have gotten in a lot of trouble. Because I have bad anger issues, and the girl like pissed me off, and they asked me because she said that I hit the wall next to her head, and I was like, no, I walked away and I hit a different wall, but I lied and said that I did indirectly hit the wall right next to her head, and I am not proud of that. My anger is a very mild thing I can't get under control.
Yeah, there is a lot of psychological problems that go untreated, and it's primarily because, especially in the case of Toon, he's encouraged to die instead of getting fixed, instead of getting treated. Um, so that's kind of what I got from what you just brought up. Oh, and also because regarding false claims, one of the biggest detractors from the Me Too movement or the other sexual assault um, movements is the question of what about the fakes. There was actually a story recently in the news. I constantly watch the Philip DeFranco show, so I get a lot of stories from that. So what had happened is a woman was stopped for a DUI. The officer took her in, did the test, and then I don't know what happened after that, but it was all caught on um, a body cam on the police cruiser. There was a lot of video evidence of what had happened, but before that was released, the woman went around claiming that she was sexually assaulted by the officer, that, oh, he touched me, he did this, he did that. But they had this footage that just very clearly showed no, that none of that happened. So, that's one of the stories that could detract from a movement like the Me Too, like the people standing up against Toon, is there is the possibility that people are lying for attention, lying to avoid punishment for something else. So we always need to be careful of who we listen to, who we accept. I always try to be skeptical of stories. If somebody says something, I want chat logs, I want proof. Not because I don't believe them, but because there is the potential that they're lying. There is the potential that we could be attributing the wrong thing to the wrong person.
Hmm. So, um, changing subject because this is very sad. Um,
Yeah.
how how do you feel about most of your quote unquote co-workers, aka analyst bronies, the brony reactors, etc.?
How do I feel about them?
Yes.
Um, when it comes to the analysis community, we tend to be oversaturated with episode reviews. So while some analysts may be great at reviewing episodes, a lot of them have kind of blended into the crowd for me because they all have this like similar format. They all have this similar way of going about episode reviews. And when it comes to group projects, um, I'll be honest, I feel they're very exclusive. When it comes to Analysis Anarchy, it's always the same cast, expectedly. It's a series based around specific characters, so I understand that one. But when it comes to other series like the um, Analysis holiday specials, I again feel it's very samey. There's the same analysts in each and every one of them. If we want to have an analysis community project or analysis community projects, I feel there should be a wider roster of people because the community is vast, but the amount of people with the resources and ability to create collaborative projects right now kind of seems limited to, Dr. Wolf and that crowd. So that's my criticism. But overall, the community, the projects that do come out, they're pretty entertaining, pretty enjoyable. So, yeah, it's not that I don't like them. It's just I don't like how much of a clique it feels like they're in.
Okay. And I have a lot more questions for you. Um, on your personal friendship and opinions, what do you feel towards Lightning Bliss?
Lightning Bliss, I don't have any problems with her. Seen her at a few conventions, and we get along just fine.
How do you feel about her actions?
Her actions? How so? Like what actions?
The things she has done, especially with the Rift Cafe.
Okay, so for the Rift Cafe, a while back, I started developing designs for the location, the layout, and all that. I created a blueprint for how everything's arranged, where the stage is, where the bar is, where the booths are, where the tables are, and all that. And then I made a 3D model of the Rift Cafe, took some pictures of it, put them in a folder, got a color palette for the cafe, put it in a folder, and then I commissioned Lightning Bliss to create the first background for the cafe, which was over the bar. You can see booths in the background, windows, and stripes on the wall. It was a very simple background that can be used for a lot of things. And then, sorry, keep coughing. Then after a while, I started using them on the cafe channel, and she eventually made the rest of the assets free, just because she wanted to use them in her videos as well, and it was mutually beneficial to have those assets for everyone able to use, because the Rift Cafe, as a web series, as a web location, was never intended to be exclusive to the chat. Like, anybody can go to the Rift Cafe and talk to the analysts and collaborate in the Rift Cafe. But since the chat came first, a lot of people attributed it to you have to be part of the club to be part of the channel. So, that kind of fell apart in that regard. But back to Lightning Bliss in particular. She sent a message on the cafe channel saying, golly gee, it's great you're using these assets, but could you give me some credit? Which, it's a reasonable request. She made the artwork. Why wasn't she being credited as is? So in all of the videos, I credited her, added her to the description saying artwork by Lightning Bliss, gave a link to her DeviantArt, and called that good. Then I went to her in PM, and I could have brought this topic up better, but ultimately what I wanted to find out is, since I had created these concept art, the concept art for these backgrounds, as well as picked out the color palette and kind of mediated how it was designed, should I not get credit for some of that? Like it seems like a reasonable request to have credit for have credit where credit is due. So we kind of had I want to call it a semi argument um, in text, and we went back and forth for a bit about how they should be credited and settled upon artwork by Lightning Bliss developed by the Looney Turtle. Because I mean, I kind of developed the design. I figured out where everything was, figured out how it was laid out, and all that. So I did kind of develop the Rift Cafe into how it exists now. Maybe not the concept, maybe not the um, idea of what should be in it, but how everything ended up being arranged is kind of what I did. Um, so from there, FNGR caught wind of this story because Lightning Bliss talked to a friend, her friend talked to him, and he has way too many connections in the community. So he took this story, not getting the full context, not getting the full story, and basically turned it into a Looney held credit for ransom until he got credit. And that was just a complete fabrication of what had happened. I had given credit and then and then had an argument about what credit I should get, if any. I think I even said multiple times, what credit, if any, should I get is one of the messages I sent Lightning Bliss at the time. So that kind of ended up giving me a bad reputation among a couple of people because nobody really wanted my side of the story. They just sided with FNGR or Lightning Bliss. But since then, Lightning Bliss and I haven't really been on bad terms. Like there's a couple times where I've commented on something that she made and she caught wind of it and it didn't end well. But since then, we've been on good terms, as far as I am concerned.
That's very sad and all, but I can't pick sides on that
Why?
because it is rude on either side.
Ah, takes two to have an argument. Good philosophy.
And it also takes two to be the better person.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Um Going into the other spectrums of the fandom, have you met any of like the rat bronies?
Rat bronies?
React.
React. Ah, so AC Race Best, Saber Spark, those kind of people.
Yes, but the also the other ones that have not been featured in the uh their channel.
Let's see. So there's those two. I've met Miss Bonnie Swan. I don't think she's in React. I'm trying to think. He screams a lot. Solrak. Or Solratic? Solratic? He was the guy that screamed a lot. He had orange pony, black hair.
Yes, he was in the bronies thing.
If I've met him. He seems like an awesome guy.
Um, uh, I I don't know if other people have got wind of this other person, but he's getting bigger in the fandom right now. Brony Monster 44.
Brony Monster, I think I've seen some of his videos, and I might even have him in my contacts, but I don't know if I've met him in person. I might have. I
And
meet too many people.
there was this channel, by the way, that had potential, Jat T Herbert, but something happened, I think. maybe the YouTube apocalypse, but his channel just died. It died.
Oh, that's unfortunate. I've actually seen that happen to a couple of people. There was this guy that actually analyzed the animation of the episodes, and it was beautiful because he went frame by frame. He gave flash files. I think it was David something. I'm not sure. And then there was this other person online, Jessica. I I can't quite remember the name right now. But she broke down the pony's height, and I actually enjoyed her brand of content so much that I went to her and I was like, "Hey, I will edit your videos. Please make more." And I just haven't heard from her in a while, and her channel has been dead since. It's unfortunate, but
I
you know.
I kind of feel a little sad about one thing, but I'm also kind of glad. There was this person that I worked with, or I worked under, and she credited me a lot because I was voice acting under her for like comic dubs. I would voice act Grolby from Undertale, Natchkablut from Undertale. I voiced Boris from Bendy and the Ink Machine, but out of nowhere, she just stopped talking to me. I think it had to do with I began to yell at her more and more spots because she would ignore me. So I just kept. I think the problem was I kept pushing it. Now she doesn't talk to me at all, but I'm kind of glad for that because her channel has been stuck around 12 to 13,000.
Uh, it's unfortunate when a channel stagnates. Looks at my own channel.
Oh yeah, your channel. You have what, like 6,500,000?
6,500,000? Wow. Wow, you have a high opinion of me. No, I think it's around 37,000.
I only have 131 subscribers.
Yeah, there's scale, but again, like you way overestimated.
Well,
100. That'd be awesome.
I mean, you're probably not getting anywhere because of YouTube's issues.
Well, it's more that I haven't uploaded as much as I should.
See, I'm starting to do that more, and we are getting off track.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've met the old other bronies. Have you met any of the animators, songwriters, singers?
Yeah, a few. Whenever you go to a convention, there's bound to be a lot of artists and animators and voice actors and just so I've met people like Miss Bonnie Swan and Fiora the Tank Girl and Beefish, Minty Root, Comic Sans. Uh, oh, Princess Deadpool. He's a cosplayer. He's actually been on Brony's React. I'm gonna be collaborating with him on a video sometime.
Ah, so surprisingly, by the way, there is this person that I would actually like you to talk to sometime. Very very amazing artist. Does not get a lot of the recognition they should. Their name is Paul Peoples. Have you heard of them?
I might have.
They have
I'd need
like
to look at the content.
their pony character is like kind of gray furred, red eyes, very gothic. Has like black eyeliner.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's a couple of characters that come to mind with that description.
But very amazing artist. I will link you to one of their things after this interview, which will probably be. I'll probably be interviewing you for like a couple more minutes,
Okay.
probably more, because it's already at like 48, and the last interview I did was like an hour and 15.
Uh,
So
all right.
let's see. Going into the other spectrums of the fandom, what what's your opinion on some of the stories in the Brony fandom?
There are some strong stories. But right now I'm trying to get through a book by uh, what's his name? David Silver. He's the person who created the Pony Finder series, and I've been reading Kind Blades and Cruel Divinity. It's actually quite an interesting story because it follows a character that is human in the Pony Finder world. So, nice different perspective in this world.
That interests me. There's this, and I'm also including fanfics, but there is this just amazing author who has written up to 30 fanfics of just Rainbow Dash, like traveling the places of like the universe or whatever. And one of the last ones I kept seeing pop up on my fiction was Rainbow Rainbow Dash traverses through the um, dark side of the universe to find the Something Armory.
Yeah.
It looked really good. I have not read it yet, but I've heard from a lot of people it is a very, very good book.
Yeah. I've read some of the more like depressing or comical stories. Like there's one called Loss, which is solely about Rarity passing away because of a heart attack caused by Rainbow Dash. And that one, you see the characters go through so much. Oh, it is a dark story.
I've
Um,
I've heard some very dark stories. Like one of the worst ones I think I've there were two really bad ones that I had to read that were very sad. The first one,
well, actually, I wouldn't say dark, my bad. I'd say more tragic,
like
because, you feel for the characters.
the first one I can list has to be like Silent Ponyville. That one, and I'm talking about the one with Pinkie Pie facing her path. That was sad.
Yeah, I've seen the Pinkie Pie one. Well, I've read the Pinkie Pie one.
And the second, I have not finished it. It's such a great book, but it's so long. And um, I know one of the people you're friends with actually likes this series, or the original series of this. But this story is Fall Equestria Project Horizons.
Yes, that's Fiora's involved with that, isn't she?
No, she is doing like some other tabletop story.
Oh, okay.
Fall Equestria Project Horizons is one of the longest written Fall Equestria fanfics, and it comes out to a whopping 7 million words.
Jeez. There's another story that I kind of liked. It was Upheaval Breaking Point. And Forrest Ray did a full narration of it, and I loved that. And then he started Upheaval Reckoning, and it was so great. And then she stopped. And now she's continued again. So really liking that series.
Oh,
Um,
you're
what?
very lucky because
That's good.
there was this narrator or YouTuber that I watched like 5 to 4 years ago, and they don't do anything on their channel anymore. And one of their biggest narration videos was them covering this book called like the the uh, corruption of darkness, and then the uh, corruption of love, and then we get to he finished both those books. We get to the third book, and it he just stopped. He stopped, and I didn't understand what happened. And 3 years later, I'm like, I'm gonna try to look up this book. I looked it up, and I found out that the original author canceled the third story when it was getting really good.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah, so luckily, Forest Rain continued reading it. The story itself was still online, so I kind of read ahead since she just kind of abandoned the series. So, yeah.
For the
And then
life
there's
of
a
me.
comical story that was great called Today is a Good Day to Die, where Princess Celestia, out of the blue, realizes that she's going to die in a day. And it just goes through here, let me give you a taste of it. Uh it has been said more than once that there are three truly unavoidable things: death, taxes, and that weird gray thingy that grows on one's belly button, and it's still there no matter how many times you try to scratch it away. But no matter how helpless the fight is, one can always be sure that ponies, whatever their gender, age, or town, will fight against those things that make life more difficult. So, for centuries, nay, for millennia, brave equines all through the land have worked long and hard to get rid of taxes and everything they represent. And that's just a snippet. It's ridiculous.
Ah.
Uh, Yeah, they go into a really long ramble. There's a few rambles. Like, after all, Celestia and Luna are immortal, right? The fact that the two sisters, the rulers of the sky, the Alicorn princesses, the really, really, really tall ponies. I mean, have you even looked at them? Because what do they even eat? Because let me tell you, those two ain't eating grass. I mean, oh, come on, immortal, eternal, and everlasting. It's like these tangents. It's fun.
Interesting, interesting. There,
Mm.
I, I can't compete with most of your books you've read, but for the fucking life of me, I have been reading Project Horizons for as long as you've been uploading on your channel, and I still haven't finished it.
Ooh, that's been a while. A few
7
years.
years.
Oh, 7 years. Even longer.
Yeah. Do you also? There was this story. I think I kept trying to pitch it to you to help, but like I think you were always busy. But it was my rendition of Fall to Equestria, and it was Fall to Equestria Shattered Memories, and it took me 7 years of rewriting, and I stopped. I can't get anywhere with it, and it makes me really sad to see my baby that I've worked on for so long just crumple up in like dust, and it's gonna be forgotten.
Yeah, I've had a lot of ideas I want to write into stories, but I'm not a writer, so I don't know where to start. Uh, but I have a lot of ideas in mind for what the world would be, what the characters' histories would be, and all that. Just I don't actually have anything for it. Hello? Ah, hello? There we go. I got you back. Was it fun when I was hosting the Rift Cafe? It was fun when I joined the Rift Cafe. When I took over, I saw a different part of the community, a more political side. And from there, it kind of fell apart for me. Because for the Rift Cafe, when I ran it, I wanted to give people the same opportunity I was given. And that's being a small creator allowed into a group with a bunch of like big YouTubers and given an opportunity to bounce off of them and grow your channel. But at the same time, you had to deal with politics, and I've never been good at that. I've never been into Fallout, so I've just kind of seen it and I admired it from afar. Ty and Dagger. Visual Pony, the narrator. Does sound familiar. Oh, yeah, I'm familiar. Can't quite place it. Audiobook? Nice. Oh, oh, oh. Okay. Uh, not that I can think of at the moment. So, yeah. I actually did a panel with those two at Crystal Mountain PonyCon one year. Yeah. Well, that's what happens when people grow up. Will, nice. Oh, I don't know him. Ah, so they're not gonna be watching much anime. Ah, that's good. Match made in heaven. Oh, okay. Hmm. I see. Ah, well, that's awkward. Yes, sorry, no hearing the other guy anymore. What? I didn't know people did that. Well, I didn't know that. Yeah, I do slip into a British accent a lot, and it's just because I am a Doctor Who fan, and I really like the British accent. Who's that? Ah, you should send me a link to him. All right. Yes. We could wrap up the interview if you'd like. Okay. Click. Oh, this guy.
Oh wait, I got to open the door. Hold on. Just got what am I gonna blink this? Let's have some cookies. Dum 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 dum.
Yeah, pretty nice guy. I'd have to watch more of his videos. Let's see.
Dum dum dum. Dum. Oh, he's coming back.
Silver Quill. What point does he laugh? Okay. But getting back to the interview. Yes, we like derailing. Uh, I don't really do a lot of podcasts. I mostly just make my videos and call people, talk to people on Skype calls or Discord servers. Yeah, you should start branching out. Okay. Oh, well, at the moment, the best I could do is giving you invitations to, say, the Rift City or other Discords that I'm a part of. Like, you could try. Didn't I already give you an invite to that one? Okay. No, well, the Rift City is a different group. I don't know. Which one? No, it's a different group. It was made by fans of the Rift Cafe. Snogritz and and I'm trying to find familiar names. There's Pick Fairy, Blue Prism, Cartoon Gentleman, other people. There's a few people in here. Well, friends don't have to be popular. They just have to be friends. Big thing is just branch out to the people that you can and then reach for the people that are big. Yeah. All right. Anyways, I gotta go in a minute here. I hope you guys enjoyed this interview. Sorry I've been kind of low and coughing in and out. I'm sick right now, so. Sure thing. Just send me a link and I'll tweet it out.